Up, guys? I am back on the mic. It has been a while, so I appreciate you guys still tuning in, and I appreciate those new ones who have subscribed to the channel. Today, we have a special guest for you guys. It's a little bit long overdue, and some of you guys already know her. Aubrey, thank you so much for taking the time today to join us.
Thank you for having me, Casey. I'm excited.
Me too. I seen you a couple times on a couple different podcasts, and I was listening to some of the things you talked about, and I was like, oh my gosh, we need to get her on. There's so much new things happening with Payrio, and I think just everything in general as far as our community developing. I'm curious to know kind of like your mindset of where you're at with the whole banning with hemp. Coming from where you're at and what you do in the space. So we'll start with, it's going to be super packed, guys. So make sure you guys take notes, or if you guys like something or have a question about something, you guys drop that in the comments, and we'll make sure that we put all of Aubrey's information in the description. But let's start with who you are, and then we'll dive into what you've built.
Okay, so I'm Aubrey Amatelli, founder and CEO of Payrio. I am a first-time founder. Payrio was founded in 2022, so it's been a little over 3 years, which is amazing. I talk about the 3-year anniversary being something that I'm incredibly proud of, to start a startup and make it to that 3-year point, and now we have, over 20 employees. So that's amazing. But I also see 3 years as like 3 years of fighting hard, every day. As a founder, you're fighting every day. So it's like a bittersweet, anniversary because of that 3 years. But, just a payments geek in general. Background came from JPMorgan. So I was there for over a decade, just live and breathe payments my entire career. And on a side note, I'm a proud single mom of 3 children. My youngest, Rio, which is my daughter, turned 10 2 days ago. So pretty shocked that my youngest is actually a decade old.
10. Oh my gosh. As a mom myself, I'm like, slow down. Like, where that's how I can tell how time flies, like through my kids, like seeing them grow up and just, seeing them develop into their personalities. Is that where the name came from? Inspired by?
Yeah. So, I didn't say I'm going to start a company and name it after my daughter. She has 2 older brothers. So that's not where it came from originally. But when I was thinking of starting the company, I wanted it to, it's a payment company. So I want it to be natural and flowing and full of life. And that's really the brand that I wanted to bring to the market, because payments are so kind of old and scary and non-approachable, and I wanted to change that. And so I was thinking of all these different names. It took me a couple weeks, and then the word river came up. I'm like, river is exactly what I just described. And my friend was like, well, Rio, that's your daughter's name, like that means river. And then lo and behold, Payrio was available as a URL, and it was just the perfect fit. So it was meant to be.
Oh, that's awesome. I know one of our NorCal farmers, I think her son's name is River. I love that name. I didn't know Rio meant river. In what
in,
language?
in
In Spanish?
Spanish.
Oh,
Yeah, in
I should
Spanish.
probably know that, huh?
But she's named after the Duran Duran's song. Her
Oh, okay.
name is Rio.
And your other two are boys.
They're boys. They're
How old are
Nico
they?
and Dino. So
Oh, I
the
love
oldest
that
is
name.
13. So I have a teenager as well. So this year was a big year for me. I have a teenager and a 10-year-old. So they're all in double digits. And then the middle guy, his name's Gino, and he's 11 years old. So I always joke, like, I couldn't have named it after them, Nico and Gino Pay, because that would be very, very, kind of like mafia, like Nico Gino Pay. It'd be like,
I love it.
yeah, it's good. Maybe for a different
Yeah.
business, but not this
Yeah.
one.
No, I love that. That's super cool. Um, on that point, being in the cannabis space, starting your own business, being a woman in a space that still, a majority of the industry, especially if you've been in banking, my background's also banking. A lot of the industry is a lot of men, but this is a lot of operating men. And you have the 3 kids. How do you balance that? Do you have like a non-negotiable that's kind of tied into your wellness and like mental health?
Yeah, that's a great question. It took me a while to get there, but I did very early on so overwhelmed with managing it all. So the community around me is amazing, right? The help I have, and I have a lot of help. I definitely can't do it alone. But I do put my mental health and wellness first and
Mhm.
foremost. So I make sure to take time for myself, whether it's going for a massage or going on a mini vacation or doing meditation or yoga. But I used to think that taking time for myself was taking away from the kids or taking away from the
Mhm.
company and
Yeah.
selfish. But I learned very quickly that is what I need to put first, because without that, that energy of giving to myself, I won't be the leader I am today or the mother I am today. So yeah, that's a big part of my day to day, is making sure I spend time on me, which is hard. It's hard to find that time and be disciplined to do that.
Yeah, I think new moms need to really hear that. That was really insightful because the mom guilt is real, especially when they're newborns, especially if you're very goal oriented and you're very driven and you still have those, projects to work on. A lot of times it's so hard to find that balance. I'm kind of, figuring my way with right now with the three. So kudos to you. I always say, hey, they're thriving, they're alive, and they're happy. So, you get a badge and you have three. That's amazing. Is there, I know I've been following you for quite some time now. I want to say a little bit over 2 years, and that's both on LinkedIn and Instagram primarily. And I see a lot of the traveling, and sometimes it's like I'm going to live through Aubrey because she is doing it. How do you do that, especially having the three, just for some mom advice? And then what is kind of like your favorite trip so far? And let's just say the past year.
Okay, so the travel is planning ahead and having. I kudos to shout out to my mom, who's there to watch the kids when I travel, and then also having overnight nannies. Like, those are amazing too. Even if you are married or have a partner, having that is super
Mhm.
important too, so you can get away with your partner. So having a great overnight nanny that you trust, that is outside of your parents, I think is a great thing. So between those two, I'm able to travel, and traveling is the biggest mom guilt of them all. But changing your mind about that, and knowing that is okay. Your kids will be okay if they're in the right care. Uh, is then you're able to enjoy it. So I would say Burning Man is a big thing that I do each year, and that is a way for me to escape completely. Where it's a world where there is no money exchange of currency. You don't even go by your real name. There's no internet, right? So there I get to be. I'm not a mom. I'm not a CEO. I'm not talking about money or even who, I am in this other world. And I just get to be free and look at art and dance and listen to music. So that is a real gift that I do every year. What's hard to get away for 10 days, but I do it, and it's worth it.
Burning Man, I hear, yeah. I think a lot of people also do that for therapeutic purposes. I
Yeah.
see a lot of that happening.
Mhm.
Um, any experiences like that for you? Do you partake in psilocybin? Is there any supplementation that helps your experiences when you're at Burning Man?
Yeah, so it definitely is therapeutic. So open to the alternative medicines when I'm there. For me, it's all about the music and the art and the freedom of expression, and really just everyone who goes there is their true authentic self, and there's no judgment, right? No one's judging who you are, and so you can just show up
Mhm.
and be you, because everyone who's showing up is being themselves, and it's just this world of no judgment, and it's a beautiful thing. So for me, it's all about the community and the art and the dancing and the music. Burning Man gets a bad rap sometimes because people think it's about other things, right? And it could be,
Mhm.
whatever you want your adventure to be. But for me, it's very, very wholesome in the way that I just get to kind of flutter around. I always say I flutter around like I'm a butterfly that has no responsibility, and that is my therapy right there.
Nice. How long is it? How long do you go for?
So I love to do the build ahead of time. So it's I go for 10 days. So I get there 5 days before, the gates open, so I can actually build the camp. So when I get there, it's
Oh,
a
yeah.
desert, and I'm part of the
Mhm.
build. It's in my nature. I've always kind of volunteered. So I volunteered with Habitat for Humanity for many years. I went to different countries to build houses. For a
Oh,
year in the Bay Area, I built houses while I was studying for my GMAT to go get my MBA. So building is, I love that part. And I like to work when I'm there, right? Building is a different, I'm a hard worker, but I don't have to use the same part of my brain that I do out
yeah.
here. And so I love kind of getting dirty and getting on top of the scaffolding and climbing. And so I work really hard when I'm there, but in a different way. And it's amazing. So 10 days, I'm gone for 10 days with no internet.
Oh, that's great. That's a huge reset. I always say, a huge reset. Some people do the one day a week where we just put our phones away on, like, I don't know, like a weekend or something.
Yeah.
But 10 days, and I think that's probably where it's real therapeutic for you. I
Yeah.
always hear Joe Rogan talk about it, and like you said, there's bad raps about it.
Mhm.
After hearing him talk about it and kind of how you're breaking it down, it's just really like the intention behind it and the kind of person you already are. It's just like an enhancement to that creativity and just kind of being free. So kudos to you. I love that. Maybe one day I'll get there. I love the camping out. I think this year I saw way more art structures, and I feel like it's getting bigger and bigger. And then just the community around it is getting bigger, I think. So that's super
Yeah.
cool to see. All right, a little bit of a pivot here. We're going to start talking about everything that you've built with Payrio. Let's start with kind of what was your why. I know you said you were with JPMorgan. Let's back up a little bit just because I'm a geek in banking, because I also come from banking. What did you do in banking, and then kind of transition into what got you to actually just starting your own company, primarily payments for cannabis? Is
Yeah.
it just cannabis companies, or is it? I imagine you maybe
Yeah,
all.
so we started with dispensaries, but now we do e-commerce, like all alternative medicines, so CBD, THCA, seeds,
Oh,
psilocybin cores, and then even further like peptides, psilocybin. So we're pushing the envelope as well. So we're covering the whole gamut, but initially it's dispensaries, and that is our primary customer base. But dispensaries also need payments for other pieces of their businesses, and then that's kind of how we expanded to listen to what the market needed. And so we cover all alternative medicines and in store and online, which is great.
wow.
Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna unpack that.
Yeah.
So let's start with your banking journey, and then tell us a little bit
Yeah.
of what got you into the cannabis space.
So my banking journey started back in 2011. I was working at a fast growing startup in San Francisco, and we were part of the daily deal craze. I don't know if you remember Groupon and Living Social. They still exist. But when they were first like coming out hot, like when it was the thing, the daily deals, I worked for a company called BloomSpot, and we were smaller, more curated, but number 3 in the industry, and we were growing rapidly. And JPMorgan acquired us in 2011, and they just folded our entire company into the big bank to do daily deals for their Chase Sapphire cardholders. And so we worked on that for about a year in the JPMorgan world, but then the industry kind of just wasn't as popular anymore. And the legal team at JPMorgan was like, we do not want daily deals on our books. Those coupons go unused. That's a lot of exposure. And so they said, what do we do with this amazing tech company? Let's just put them into merchant services or, payments, right, into credit card processing. And JP Morgan at the time was the largest credit card processing, wholly owned bank in the world. And so I had the opportunity to learn from Chase Merchant Services. I didn't know anything that happened, but after I swiped my card back then. Now, ever since that moment, I've lived and breathed that millisecond. But so our whole company just got put into the merchant services group, and that's what I did for the majority of my time at JP Morgan. I rose through the ranks and became a manager and a leader. And my last year at JP Morgan, I transitioned to be a commercial banker in the Silicon Valley, a small group that Jamie Dimon put together to go head to head with SVB Bank. So it was a great opportunity opportunity to transition from merchant services to actually be a commercial banker, which was very rare in JPMorgan. But for me, it was my opportunity to work with startups because after 11 years, I was ready to leave the big bank and get back up into the startup world from, where I came from originally.
Oh
So
my God, that's crazy. I love the mindset. I feel like there's a lot of people who are in the cannabis space that have a heavy background in banking and something like just clicked. And there's a lot of things and skills that you built in the banking world that was able to be transferable to what you're doing now. Okay, that's exciting. Thank you for sharing that. So, when was it that you decided that you were going to actually just take this on? Maybe share a little bit of what it looks like to start something like this. Are you, reaching out to investors? Are you, putting the cash up yourself? Tell us a little bit of what it's like as far as an entrepreneur and the journey. They always say it's about the journey, loving the journey, and not like the actual end of it, because it just keeps on going. And the whole idea is for growth. So tell us a little bit about how you kind of went through those ropes.
yeah, so it is all about the journey. So I mentioned I was like, my idea was, okay, if I become this commercial banker working in the technology and disruptive commerce group, I'm going to meet a startup. And I always had in my mind that I wanted to be a C-suite executive. I've always been competitive, natured person. I played Division I soccer in college. I always wanted to achieve. So I'm like, okay, I'm ready. I want to be a C-suite of a startup. I have the skills from JPMorgan to do it. And I got the opportunity to be a chief revenue officer at a fintech. So I left JPMorgan with the full support of my family there to be the chief revenue officer of the fintech. And it was a really great opportunity for myself and my family to support my kiddos. Going to that fintech, I realized that, as you mentioned, Casey, the knowledge I had from JP Morgan was, I always say, like the Harvard of education and payments. What I learned there, the foundation that I learned there, bringing it into a small startup is so valuable to that startup. And I was able to make a huge impact in that startup right away just by working, business as usual. What I've learned over the last decade, bringing it into this smaller business, and helping them implement what I've learned, and how to run a company or my little business within JP Morgan. So that was an amazing experience and a huge learning lesson for me. While what essentially had me transition to running my own business was, at that time at that startup, I was the only female in the entire C-suite and board. So it was very hard for me to. It was something I was pushing to have more female leadership in that company, and we talked a lot about male-dominated industries.
Yeah.
So it was a fintech focused in on the accounting and law verticals, and
Mm-hmm.
and being the only female, without the support from the entire C-suite and board. It was a publicly traded company. Without the support of having other female leadership come in, it just really fired me up that I wanted to, if I couldn't change the leadership within, I wanted to become the leader that could support women and lift women up and give women the opportunity to thrive in the business world. And ultimately, that's why I left, so that I could start Payrio and do that myself. So
Oh my gosh, that's exciting. I
yeah,
feel like, things that make you nervous, that feel like, you really just don't know what's on the other side of things. It's what your guts kind of telling you to actually do. It's always like what I say is like when you don't feel like doing something, that's low key the universe telling you like go for it. So I'm so glad that you just followed your intuition, because I know a lot of people in the back of their head, they have tons of ideas. A lot of them will, I wish I could do this or have this idea, but to actually execute is a whole different ball game. So kudos to you for doing that. On that point, building a team is also like a second fold to that. How did you go from, okay, I'm starting this up, to now I need to build a team? And if there's like phases to that, please share with us.
yeah. So Payrio is self-funded. I just went all in. I put all of my life savings, everything into building this company. And it started with me. So I was the original salesperson and still am, like helping. I talk to almost every single prospect that comes through our company just because I love it. But I was me, making 100 cold calls a day to dispensaries, trying to get one of them to say yes. But early on, because it was self-funded, I didn't have the funds to pay for salaried sales positions. So the way I've operated the company on the sales side has always been 1099 sales roles. So I was so fortunate enough to bring on someone named Chase. He was the number 2 employee at my company, and he's still here. He runs the marketing group, and you know him, and
Great guy.
yeah, he's amazing. And so he's been with me since practically the beginning. And then Amanda Farron, who she came on very early on. And so it was the 3 of us meeting every morning with a game plan, calling all day and meeting in the afternoon to say, to celebrate how the day went and how the calls went. And that's how we built the company slowly, just one customer at a time. That and just being part of the community. So Amanda transitioned to head of the community and really she was part of the cannabis community before coming to Payrio. And that I think is a big reason for our success, is that very early on, I didn't just want to be a payment company. I wanted to be part of the community and earn trust in the community so that they knew that we were here to help them. We weren't like, banking or payment companies that might have taken advantage of them in the past. We were there to support and help them grow. So that's how I started the company, with just bootstrapped it myself with trust and love, with great people around me.
Yeah, I think, your banking days prepared you for the million calls you've probably done, and not stopping at, the 50th no or the 50th, gatekeeper type of vibes. So that's really hard. And I think to you never giving up and making sure that you guys have the right people, and, the way you are even making sure that the team morale is there is huge as far as being able to grow together. And I see all of you guys doing your own thing, but all at the same time also cheering each other on, whether that's inside of Payrio or it has something to do with the community. And I love that about you. Speaking about events, you're very involved in the community space. What networks are you part of, and what events do you like to partake as far as being in the cannabis space?
Well, we're doing one at MJBizCon. Yeah. So we have a event. We have a group, the Can Lounge, which I love. It's a group of professionals that come together and create a nice safe space for other professionals to get together. So that's always one that I enjoy, that we've been working hard on. What else? Benzinga was one in the past that I've gone to a lot, but I think recently Hall of Flowers has been really great events to go to. We're always, anytime I can get out there, I will. It's just so fun to see people and clients and just how the industry is changing and growing in person, because it's great to talk over the internet or like over the Zoom, but in person just takes those relationships so much farther, much bigger. So
yeah, totally agree. The energy is there. I love it. Speaking about the events, I know that when I first came across you, and it had been Amanda, it was at Blunt Brunch, and you guys wear specific colors to your brand. I'm a huge geek when it comes to brand awareness, personal branding, anything in that realm. And you guys do a killer job at that. Is that intentional? Is that something that you went in on as far as like, okay, part of branding for us is merch everywhere we go. We're dripping in it. There's no question. And from there, anytime I saw that pink and blue, whether you guys were standing from behind, I'm like, oh, there they are. That is the Payrio team. And eventually I got to know you guys, but I think it's a genius idea, and a lot of people in the space should take notes, because it's such an easy, maybe costly depending on what you're doing, but it's such a great way to really like represent yourselves in other spaces.
Yeah, so this is actually the original hat, and this came from when I started the company in 2022. It was in September, and we had, I think, one or two clients, and I made the personal investment, obviously, to send four of us to MJ BizCon.
Mm.
And we all wore pink and blue. That was a requirement. We stayed at a very nice hotel with a very low cost.
Hey,
Very,
you're there. That's all that matters.
so
You're there.
we invested in the plane flights and the hotel, and everyone was wearing pink and blue. And I had someone locally who made hats for my son's soccer team for the parents. And I called her
Mhm.
up and I said, "Hey, I need a hat, blue with the pink Payrio across the top." And this is kind of her styling, like this is her font. And I said, "Can you make me four hats?" And then, and then the team will wear it and we'll kind of be our walking billboard. And
Yeah.
so at MJ BizCon, the first year we walked around with the hats, and we had so many people wondering, like, who are you? What's that brand? We even had someone offer $200 to buy a hat off of our head. And so we knew that we had something there. Like, we knew how we had,
Mhm.
and so that was kind of we just fell into that branding, but I knew that we had to stick with it because what we were from there is we always wear the pink and blue, we always wear the hats. And I have clients who, if I don't wear the hat and I go to an event, they have to take a double take at me, and then they'll be like, "Oh yeah, Aubrey," because they're so used to seeing me wear a Payrio hat.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think you guys do a great job, even if it's not the actual hat. You guys make sure the dresses are matching. So you guys do a good job with that. Um, about Pay Rio, let's talk about that. Tell us a little bit about the services. If maybe I'm a retail owner, just tell us a little bit about what you do in that space, and then how you guys provide services to people in and out of this space.
Yeah, so we do payment processing via like a physical terminal in dispensaries. So our primary product is a debit solution. We call it digital debit. So it's debit only, and it allows for Apple Pay and Google Pay and tapping. It does run on the ATM rails, so it requires rounding to five. But what we've done is something very unique where we can take that change and make it into a tip. So it's a really big part of our solution that's different than a lot of what you might have heard of cashless ATMs in the industry. Our,
Mhm.
our solution's a lot different, where we're able to utilize the change and turn it into a tip. And we also have the Apple Pay, Google Pay, and Tap to Pay option built in. So that's our primary solution that we offer. But we do offer credit card processing as well as e-commerce processing for everything non-THC, everything below 0.3% THC, which now recently, the hot topic, but we'll talk about that too, my thoughts, but yeah, so.
Yeah, let's talk about it. That's perfect. That's a perfect transition. Tell us how it's affecting you, or maybe some of your clients, and then maybe kind of where you see it. Because to my understanding, we still have a year before it's implemented, and I know there's a lot of people who are like really putting fucking work into it, as far as either stopping it or trying to figure out something else. What are
Yeah.
your thoughts on that?
So initially, scared, upset. I mean, this was a group, a huge group that we have helped and support getting payments on their websites and helping them sell their products all across the country, right? And so if the product were below 0.3% THC, we could help them sell their THCA or their hemp all across the country with limited restrictions, which as you know, you can't do with cannabis. And
Mhm.
so there was a difference. Some say it was a loophole, which, that's kind of why there was probably this ban, et cetera, or what's happening. But at the end of the day, we aren't treating our clients differently. Their payments aren't being shut off. We are still onboarding and underwriting the same as we were before this ban, because,
Okay.
as you said, so many people are going to fight this. This is not going to stay the same. And we are going to treat all of those customers the same the ways we did before the ban. all the way up until November 1st of 2026. We're going to see what happens until then, because we know a lot happens in a year.
Mhm.
And I think that there might be some regulations that come out of it, but an entire wipe, entire ban on all of hemp is ridiculous.
It's
I
crazy.
I think this is when, hemp and cannabis, really the groups will need to come together, and hopefully the regulations kind of, you know, lessen on the cannabis side, and we kind of meet in the middle, and we can come together and find a happy medium is my goal, my hope out of this. But I'm not scared for our hemp customers. We're treating them all the same, and I don't think they have anything to worry about right now, and they shouldn't. They should keep pushing and doing business the way they are, in my opinion. And that's how I'm doing it.
Did you have an influx of anybody or your customers reaching out when that passed? I mean, it was just what, last week?
Yeah, not yet. I think
Okay.
they're waiting to hear from us. I wanted to talk to our bank sponsors first to see what their stance was. And I did have our largest partner a conversation with them on Friday, and a big meeting with their entire team. And I'm reiterating what our conversation was, that they're not going to make any changes until November, until November next year, that they don't want to jump and, worry, take 6 months to rewrite all of their underwriting policies just to see that
Mhm.
the policy, everything gets dropped. So they're just going to continue to move business the way they are today. And that made me really happy to hear.
Yeah, thankfully they got a little grace period to work on it, and I think, some of the people that are up there or usually are in the face of these governors who have access to making the change up there. But, again, it's always like education, more education, get it in their faces, whatever it is. I hear a lot of talk about thinking people are saying that maybe big alcohol is behind it because they're feeling a little threatened. There's a surge of people who are just, and it started in COVID, of people just really jumping on just getting better, bettering themselves as far as wellness. It's my third year now not drinking alcohol. I wasn't a heavy drinker, but I see a lot of that, like the Cali sober vibe just kind of went all over, and they're saying that big alcohol is kind of a little scared now. So do you have any thoughts on that?
They should be. And congratulations to you. I'm two and a
Yay!
half years Cali sober.
Feels good, right? Feels
Yeah,
good. It's never
yeah,
the need, but I love my plant medicine, and I just don't feel the need for our alcohol.
me too.
Thank
Yeah,
you for sharing. That's really interesting for me. Like, again, I come from the banking side, specifically like dealing with the underwriters. And you're right, because if they decide to change something that affects like the SEC codes, and I just can't imagine them having to go back and forth and then have to reach back out to clients. So yeah, I think they're better off just kind of riding the wave. And then I think, like you said, being having them one-on-one relationships and making sure that you guys are there for your clients to make sure that if there's any question, that you guys are the first people to make sure that they feel a little comfort in what's happening right now. So
yeah.
I love that you're still very hands-on, because I think we've got a big company, you may be putting people in those spaces and they no longer have that contact to you. And I think when you're in this particular space and there's so much happening, especially with their cash flow, that it is important to hear from the owners and just give them that sense of like warmness of like, we're here for you, we care for you, and if there's anything that changes, we'll be the first to like make sure that you guys are well taken care of. um, it's a crazy industry, but I feel like the people who truly love it and truly see the benefit of the plants are sticking through it, and I see that in you, and I know you're fighting through all the loops of it. If you were to give advice to anybody that wanted to get into this particular space, whether anything that's in the plant space, um, what would be your advice to them?
To get into the space, that there's never a dull moment into cannabis or even into payments, right? Both of
Yeah.
them, I think both of them are very exciting industries. And from the cannabis side, you're the underdog, right? And even with the payment side, the industry's fighting for equality, right? On as payments in cannabis, dispensaries have never been able to experience normalized payments like the way you go into a coffee shop and, just tap your card and pick a tip and are on your way. Like dispensaries have always had to struggle with what payment solutions being shut off or going to cash and, their customers not knowing how to pay. And so, it is coming into an industry full of, underdogs, but that are all fighters. This is the most passionate group of people I've ever worked with. Everyone's there. So it's wonderful. It's a great industry to be in, but you're going to become a fighter too, right?
Yeah, there's definitely, you've got to be a little bit resilient and just, have a little bit of a thick skin to get through it. And I really think like if you truly believe in the plant, you'll just keep pushing. Like it's been part of my life for a really long time. And then there's a lot of people that really truly believe this plant should either be decriminalized or at least be, to the point where our veterans can have safe access. There's so many different things. What's the craziest story that you came across that's related to payments and, let's just say, dispensaries?
The craziest story I've come across. Oof.
Well, I will say, you did say they have to go through underwriting. And when you mentioned that, I was like, I wonder how many people that she's came across that just, their cash flow is just, they just don't have the documentation to actually even go through
Yeah,
something
there
like that.
is. I mean, there are, we have had yeah, I guess from an underwriting perspective, we've had I think there's some really funny names, like legal entity names. Maybe I'll do that. Like there's some really funny legal entity names that come through. The DBA names that we've seen, like they're just the names of dispensaries across the country, and there's over 10,000 now, many more, right? Just I think that we have some really fun, cool, funky names that come through, and some of them, like one recently, we got declined just because of the legal entity name. Just had to do with like a true crime. Like they there's a true crime. The legal entity had nothing to do with the crime, but they thought it would be funny to name their legal entity after this true crime story. And so there's some fun that the industry has, but also pushes the envelope to the point where maybe it's not funny anymore.
I could see that. And that's so funny because in banking, I used to do KYCs.
Yes,
So part of it would be investigating into the littlest things like that. And I always tell people, like, get creative with your name if you're in this space, because when you go for a loan, like that is the first thing they see. And it's such a red flag, like right off the fucking bat.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's just the banker hats that we have, that like that's something that we see, but that's crazy. I feel like it's the same thing with the strains. People are getting crazy with the strain names, but it's fun. Like you said, there's never a dull moment, and I think our industry is always fun, and I love being part of it. I love being part of the Canna Lounge, working with you and being able to do events. I think it's super important that we do that, especially for those who have brands for networking purposes. But actually, I think that's all I've got for you today. Before I let you go, I do want to say thank you so much for sharing your story, your journey as far as being a mom, an entrepreneur in a space that's still, I want to say it's still in an infant stage. I know we've been in it for quite some time, but there's just so much happening, and you're still pushing through. So kudos to you. And again, thank you for sharing all of that with us. Are you ready to do rapid fire? It's 7 grams. It's going to be around your lifestyle and a little bit about cannabis, but not too much. And then we'll wrap it up from there.
Okay, I'm ready. I'm excited. Am I supposed to know the rapid fire questions? Or are they surprise? They're
No, they're surprised. I like to surprise them. I change them around depending on who my guest is. I used to keep them pretty steady, but I figured out a balance just because I like to ask a little bit about, your guys' wellness. A lot of people have like the stigma of us being couch locked. So for me, doing this podcast was primarily one to get the people who have brands or companies that are in the space to share their story so that people can learn who they are and their actual whys and not think that you guys are all like, we're not just a bunch of stoners who just decided to jump into this. And then two, at the same time, just like really highlight how productive a lot of us stoners really are. So, so primarily that's what the 7 grams is around.
Okay, let's do it.
Number one, coffee, cannabis, or cardio, or all three. Which is your favorite way to have a productive day?
I would say right now cardio. So
Ooh,
I
cardio.
gave up coffee when I was doing my dieta for my ayahuasca retreat in March. So on my 40th birthday, I went on an ayahuasca retreat this year, which is another vacation, but not really, a wonderful thing I did for my mental health earlier this
Oh,
year.
I bet. We could have talked about that. This is supposed to
Yeah,
be rapid fire, guys, but it's going to
sorry.
be story time. I'm just kidding. We'll have
Yeah,
to share that. That's amazing. I always have joked about that. I know, like again, Joe Rogan. I'm a huge fan of his, so I've really just studied all his shit, and he talks about that. And I feel like for a lot of women, this would be a great idea or thought to think about to try. So I'm glad. I have to, yeah, get the story behind that, maybe in Vegas.
yeah, exactly.
But what are you doing for cardio?
So, and then at cannabis, I love cannabis, but it has to be after work. So I'm
Okay.
most productive when I'm, not smoking. And then, so for cardio, I actually have a personal trainer that comes to the office because otherwise I wouldn't get it in. Right.
Yeah,
So I do just weights and
I love it.
cardio when I'm here. And then I play soccer on the weekends. So I'm still active
Look
playing
at
soccer on a soccer team.
you.
I coach.
Girl, we got to do a Payrio soccer event.
Yeah.
That would be legit.
Yeah.
Okay, I love that. Okay, number two, what's the biggest misconception about cannabis?
That it's like a drug, it's a scary drug. And for me, it's just the most beautiful medicine. So yeah, it's just the bad rap cannabis gets is just, it's horrible. So
Yeah,
yeah.
I know. I fight that with my mom still, but I
Mhm.
think it's a cultural thing, still a lot of education again.
Yeah.
One book you would give to somebody new in the cannabis space?
Someone new in the cannabis space.
I guess it would be more like somebody coming into the cannabis space.
Okay, here's one that I happen to be in. It's called The
Ooh,
Cannabis Queens
I
by
like that.
Melanie Wetzel. So it's a book filled with a bunch of interviewed a bunch of women in cannabis and just a great lift up for women in cannabis and talks all about the plant and how different women and how they're involved in the industry.
That's awesome. I haven't
Yeah.
even come across that. I haven't seen that. Yeah, you'll have to send me the link.
Okay.
Okay, good share. Which role has the hardest daily non-negotiable? Growers, distributors, or retailers?
Growers.
Yeah, great answer. Right? I mean, have you ever tried growing yourself?
I have actually. So the last couple summers I haven't grown, but I picked up growing during COVID. So for 3 summers I grew 6 plants.
Yay.
And then prior to, my kiddo's father was a grower in Santa Cruz County when I met him in 2011. So we actually grew all the way up until 2014.
So
Yeah.
plants always been about your life. Okay, love that. Love that. I
Mhm.
wish we were bankers together at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it's something you hide.
Oh, my
They
girl,
all go,
working
yeah,
it. Yeah.
yeah, they all go to happy hour, and I'm like, no thanks. And that's because I would go home and do my thing, and I'm
Yeah.
not a happy hour person, at least with alcohol. Okay, so if you weren't in cannabis, what industry do you think you would have been in? Banking?
Ooh, no, I
Mm.
don't. I think farming.
Oh, I love that. Oh, I love that. I would be right there with you, girl. I say that until you like really see all the fucking work they have to do. I'm like, oh
I
my
want to.
God.
I want to do that work.
I know, I know.
Different
We have
types
to
of
work on land. We have to
work.
work on some sort of compound, girl.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see. Taxes or regulation? Which one's the biggest headache right now?
I think
My God, both.
taxes. I
Yeah,
mean, I don't
they
think
just don't
dispensers
stop.
need to be paying 30%. Like, let's decrease those taxes and
Well, yeah,
that
it
would be
affects us too, right? As
yeah,
consumers, when you go in there and I look at my receipt, I'm like, wait, the bud tender told me it was this amount. And then you look at your receipt and you have like a whole 30% plus 15%. I'm like, what is all this? Especially to somebody that's isn't in the industry. How confusing is that?
yeah.
Great answer. All right, last one. If something were to be leaked, which one would you choose? Text or pictures?
Of mine,
Yes. I love this question. It's really like,
no,
fuck, I don't know.
photos. I'm
Yeah, a lot of people saying that. Photos. All right. There it is, guys. If it got leaked, it'd be the photos. Well, you look great all the time anyways. Your physique is on point. So hey, I would not be mad at that at all. All right, Aubrey, I really thank you for sharing all of that with us today, your journey, spending some fun time with the rapid fire questions. Is there any last words you'd like to tell anybody on here? And then wrap it up with where we can find you.
just wanted to thank you for your time and what you're doing. And I'm so happy to see you back and congratulations on your newborn. So
Thank
welcome
you.
back. And just, I love I love being available for the community. So where you can find me is payrio.com or my Instagram. I actually run the company Instagram. It's kind of a mixture between company and personal, but on our website you can book a meeting directly or appointment directly with me. I have my calendar open. It's been open since day one. So always love chatting with anybody who wants to talk. I'm an open book, and so please reach out if you want to talk further.
Awesome. All right, guys. I will make sure that all of Aubrey's information is in the description. Again, if you guys have any questions or comments, make sure you guys put that down below. We'll be back soon. Appreciate you guys all subscribing.